Let's take a look at the Power Table component. The Power Table offers the same functionality as the standard table component, but has a wealth of additional features. I'm here in my designer, and I'll come to the table section of the component palette, and we will grab a Power Table component. Let me just drag that and drop that onto my window. Now I'm going to need some test data to work with, so I'll head over to my property editor. We'll scroll all the way down to the bottom, and just like the standard table, there's that test data property. We'll set it to true, just so I have some data to work with. Now, just like the standard table, the Power Table has a customizer that allows us to make some changes to the columns in the table. So if I right-click, I go down to Customizers and go to Table Customizer. You'll see a lot of the same options here, such as hiding specific columns, making them editable, and so on and so forth. Now, where the Power Table differs from the standard table is there are quite a few features that are available from the runtime. So I'll put my designer to preview mode. And if I head down here, I can right-click on the header row here, and I can actually hide specific columns. So maybe I want to hide the date and the Boolean column. I can also reorder the columns, so I can take my string column and move that over. And I can do this as many times as I like and order the columns in whatever order I choose. I can also left-click on each header to sort by ascending and then descending order. Additionally, I can hold the Control key and left-click on additional columns. And now I'm sorting by multiple columns. Now if I come down here, I can select individual rows. I can also click and drag to select multiple rows. Now a new feature that was added in 7.8 is while I have multiple rows selected, if I hit the Control and C key to copy, I can copy these selected rows. And now I can paste them anywhere I want once they're in my clipboard. So for example, let me come over here and grab Notepad. And if I right-click and paste, you can see there's my data. Let me get this back out of the way here. Now there's another property here. If I come down to my property editor, I scroll back up towards the top. Under the behavior section, there's this row dragging enabled property. If I set this to true, I can take my selected rows and I can drag and drop them onto other Ignition components. Now if I try that right now, I can do this. I can drag and drop within the same Power Table component. If I do that though, I get a little warning telling me that the onRowsDropped extension function is not implemented. To make use of this drag and drop functionality, I need to enable an extension function that tells the target component what to do with the data. We'll go ahead and take a look at that. I'll take the designer out of preview mode. We will right-click on the Power Table and we'll go down to Scripting. And you can see there are quite a few extension functions available, including that onRowsDropped. So if I wanted to do something when I dropped rows from any Power Table onto this Power Table, I would configure the script here. Now I'm not going to go over every extension function here. We will take a look at one example though. I'll come to this configure cell extension function. This extension function allows you to make changes to individual cells on the table. You can do things such as modify the background color, the border, the font, the foreground color, and so on. If I enable this, you'll see that there's a little example just commented out here. I'll select lines 31 through 26 and hit Control and / to uncomment. We'll go over the script here real quick. All it's doing is whenever a row is selected, it uses whatever the color of the selection background property on the component is. If the row is not selected, alternate between white and this gray color. I'll click OK, and we can see that it's alternating between gray and white. Another feature of the Power Table is that we can have individual cells span across multiple rows and columns. To do this, I can come down to the property editor again. We'll scroll down to the Data section, and there's this Cell Span Data property. We can specify which cell and how large we want to make it. To give you an example, we'll add a new row here, and we'll focus on the very first row of the first column here. So we'll specify row 0, column 0. We'll use a height of 2 columns and by 2 rows. So if I click OK, we can see that that one cell is now expanding 2 columns and 2 rows. Lastly, a new feature added in 7.8 is this View Dataset property down below. This property represents the currently visible state and configuration of the table made by the user versus the full underlying data set that's driving the table. So you can see here I have my 3 columns in order as they are on the table, and that is very different from the data properties data set. So we can see we have all 5 still on the table technically. So now you can do things like run a script whenever the user hides a column or reorders the columns in the table and so on.